Hi guys, welcome back. I have my helper Paige again and we're ready to talk about
Worms.
worms. And what letter does worm start with?
W.
W. You can even make a W with your fingers. 1, 2, 3 fingers make a W. And what does the W sound like, Paige?
W.
W for worms. And I have some real live worms right here on my plate. They're moving around with their bodies because remember we learned yesterday they don't have arms and they don't have legs. They just have bodies and they can kind of wiggle. So they're kind of making shapes with their bodies right now.
Because they don't have bones.
They don't have any bones. So Paige thought this one was kind of making itself into a kind of a shape that looked like
a question mark.
A question mark. And this one had kind of looked like an S, but it's moving. You can kind of see they're moving.
And this one's not cooperating with
That's
us.
okay. It kind of looks maybe a little like a J.
Kinda.
As you watch, ooh, and see now this one's moving a little bit more, almost to like the shape of a C, like for Cecilia.
Yeah.
Look at that big C. So as you watch them kind of wiggle and move, they can make shapes. One of the things that I thought might be really fun for you guys, if you have spaghetti in your house, spaghetti almost kind of looks like a worm. It doesn't have any arms or legs. It has a nice wiggly shape to it. And you could take that spaghetti and pretend it's a worm, and you could make it into shapes any way you want. I just had to move that worm over. Maybe you want to see if you could make it into an O, kind of like an O shape.
Maybe you could write your name with it.
Maybe you could try to write your name with it. Maybe you need to make it smaller, so you're going to break it into pieces, and you could make one shape like that and one shape like that and try to make the letter L.
Oh yeah.
Or maybe you could make an S. This almost looks like an S right there. Kind of wiggled its way into an S. So my spaghetti was in the refrigerator for a little bit, but if you make spaghetti right away and you take it off the stove and let it cool down, it will kind of stay straighter a little bit for you, and it'll be easier for you to make letters. But you can pretend the spaghetti is worm, and you can make some letters with your spaghetti, and it might be kind of a fun thing to do. And you could try to make numbers too. Numbers and letters, remember, are basically just lines and curves, so you can kind of move them around and make anything you want. I'm gonna leave these worms on the plate for a little bit, and we'll just kind of see how it goes during the video, what kind of shapes that they can make with their bodies as they're squiggling and wiggling around on the plate. While I'm looking at the worms too, we learned about worms yesterday. We learned that worms have segments. I can see those segments in the worm, those lines.
This kind of looked like a 3.
Oh, yeah, it kind of did look like a 3-page, you're right. I can see, I don't know if that's the head or tail. It's hard for me to decide, but I know that it has a tail, and I know it has a head. I actually think this is the tail, because this one worm was pooping right there. So I think that's the tail, and this is the head, and this one's making worm poop. And then I can kind of see the clitellum here, that brown patch. You can kind of see it on this one too. So remember, they don't have any arms, they don't have any legs, they don't have any eyes, they don't have any ears, they don't have a nose.
But they have a mouth.
They do have a mouth so that they can eat. So I wanted to talk today about where worms live. Paige, do you have an idea about where worms might live?
In gardens and like places with dirt and like a little bit of water that's moist.
Yeah. Worms love dirt. So whenever you're gonna go on a worm hunt or you're looking for worms, your best bet is to find them in the dirt. They love the dirt for a couple of reasons. First, oftentimes the dirt is nice and wet for them, and they like nice, dark, wet places. Also, they love to eat that dirt. They munch and munch and munch and munch and munch and munch and munch that dirt in the ground, so they can eat it and they can live in it and make tunnels in it. So anytime you want to find a worm, you're going to want to look for dirt. So I thought it might be cool to do a little experiment today.
Ooh.
So I have a vase. I already had some dirt in it.
Yeah.
I have a vase so that I can kind of see what I'm doing. I'm going to scoop some dirt into my vase. And in my dirt, where did we get this dirt from, Paige?
We got the dirt from our garden.
We got the dirt from the garden. So when we were digging for this dirt, guess what we found inside the dirt?
We found a whole bunch of worms.
We found a whole bunch bunch of worms in that dirt. They were already in there.
Yep.
So I'm gonna put some of that dirt on the bottom. Not all of that dirt, but I'm gonna put some of that dirt onto the bottom of my vase that I found in the garden. And the worms are gonna go with it. They'll go to the bottom. Okay. Let's see, is that good? I might need a little bit more.
Yeah, about just
A little bit more. All right.
That should be good.
Then on top of that dirt, I'm gonna put some sand. I'm gonna make a pattern. So I'm gonna put some dirt, and then on the top of that dirt, I'm gonna put some sand. A little bit more. And then I'm gonna put some more dirt. And there's some worms in that dirt. Oops, that's okay. We can clean that up later. No big deal if you make a little mess. You might want to do your experiment like this outside.
It's like a pattern. It's dirt, sand, dirt.
You got it. So if I did dirt right now, what would come after my dirt?
Sand.
I have to just break apart that dirt. Okay, so next I would want to put some sand because I'm making a pattern. I'm going to put some sand over that dirt. Can you see my pattern? Can you
Yep.
see how it's kind of going? Can you see how it's dirt, sand, dirt, sand? Okay, now I need more what?
Dirt.
Dirt, because that's my pattern, right?
Yep.
More dirt. Oops, making a mess. Now, if I just did dirt, what comes next?
Sand.
Sand. Oops.
Because
There's
it's
like
a pattern.
stick in my dirt. All right, now I need my sand because that comes after my dirt. Nice lot of sand on this one. Okay. All right, so I have a pattern. I have dirt, sand, dirt, sand, dirt, sand. What do I need on the very top?
Dirt.
Dirt. To end it up, I need some dirt. I'm gonna break it up a little bit.
The dirt is getting kind of hard.
That's okay. We can put a little bit of water in it.
Do you want me to go get some water?
Sure. Now, on the very, 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 very top, I want to put my worms that I found. I want to put them on the top. And then I'm going to add a little bit of water because worms like it to be wet. They don't have noses that they can breathe through like we do, so they breathe through their skin. And if their skin isn't wet, it's hard for them to breathe and then they might die. So I'm going to put my worms on the very, very top here. I'm gonna give them a little bit of water so that dirt is nice and moist, nice and wet for them to be able to breathe. And then I'm gonna cover the top of my vase with some tin foil. I'm gonna poke some holes in it. Can you grab me some tin foil, Paigey?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna make that dirt nice and moist.
Where's the tin foil?
Go look and see if you can find it in one of the drawers.
All right.
I'm gonna make it nice and moist for them. And that water is going to kind of sink down. There. It's nice and moist for them. I'm going to cover the top of this and poke some holes in so that there's air in there. I don't want there to not be air in there. Thank you, Paigey. And then I'm going to do something even crazier. I'm going to cover the whole thing. I'm going to make it really, really, really dark. And I'm not going to look at it today. I'm not going to look at it until tomorrow.
Why is that?
Paige wonders why I'm going to cover the whole thing and not look at it until tomorrow. Do you guys know why? Why do you think I might cover this whole thing and not look at it until tomorrow?
Maybe you just want to see what happens?
Yeah, it's an experiment and I kind of want to give the worms a little bit of a chance to do their thing and see what happens. So tomorrow when I look at it, I'm gonna maybe notice that the worms were doing something in there. I want you guys to think about what the worms might be doing in here in the dark with the dirt and the sand and a little bit of water. So think about that and maybe come up with some answers that you could share with your grown-up in your family or your brothers and sisters of what you think those worms might be doing. And then tomorrow we're going to open it up and we're going to see if we can figure out what those worms were doing in there. That is our experiment for today. We're gonna wait and see what happens. That's what we're gonna do. In the meantime, you could get to work on some art projects. Not only could you work on maybe making some spaghetti or using some string to pretend that they're worms and make letters and numbers with that, you could also make some worm tunnels. So here's what I thought you could do. I think you could use markers or crayons. I'm gonna use some paint. If you have paint at home, you could maybe use that. I'm gonna take a piece of paper. I just have a big piece of paper here. And I'm gonna paint my paper nice and brown. What do you think that could be? Why am I painting my paper brown? Okay, do you know why?
Maybe it could be the garden.
That's the dirt in my garden. Does it matter how I paint my dirt?
Nope.
Nope. You know what's super, super fun? Is I could do it any way I want to. I could use a paintbrush. I could use my fingers. I could use anything I want to paint this whole piece of paper brown.
Is it okay if you get it on here?
Oh, what do you think?
Probably.
Yeah. I don't want to really do it on my carpet, on the floor. This might be a better thing to do at the kitchen table, or use a tray if you're gonna paint somewhere else. It's definitely up to the grown-up in your house. You wanna listen to the grown-up in your house. Once I'm done painting all of that dirt, I wanna try and make some worm tunnels, because I know those worms love to live in that nice, wet, dark dirt. They live there, they eat there. And while they're eating, they make those tunnels in the ground. So I'm gonna make my tunnels black so I can see them. And I'm gonna have so much fun doing this because I can do it any way I want. Maybe my worms started up here, way up at the top, and started to dig and eat that dirt down. But then you know what my worm did?
What?
My worm started to go this way. It started to eat and dig this way. Paige, do you want to try and see if you could add to the worm tunnel?
Sure.
Okay, let me get you some black paint. Where is your worm gonna go?
My worm is going to go probably down here.
Okay. So her worm is starting to eat that dirt and dig and make a tunnel down.
And then my worm is going to go over here.
Ooh, I love it. Can I add a tunnel then?
Yep.
Oh, this is called taking turns. This is a fun thing to do too. You could take turns with your brother or sister or mommy or daddy or grandma or grandpa, whoever you live with. Now my worm is going to go down a little bit more and make another tunnel. And my worm is going to go way over here. And then you know what my worm's going to do? He's going to go up and over a little bit and up again. And maybe he's going to come up to the top again. You could make you could even make one worm tunnel that kind of goes down like this in the middle. You could make some more worm tunnels that go out the sides. You could make as many worm tunnels as you want. Those worms just keep eating the dirt and they keep tunneling away underneath the ground. Can you guys see the worm tunnels?
Yes.
Well, you can see these worm tunnels.
Yeah.
Can you see the worm tunnels in the ground? Why not?
Because they're in the ground and they're not above the ground.
Right, they're deep down in the ground. So you can't actually see the worm tunnels, but they're there. They're deep down in the ground where those worms live. So that's one thing that you could do, is make some worm tunnels with crayons, markers, paint, whatever you want to do, however you want to do it. Another thing that you could do is maybe you want to try and make your very own worm. Geveret Fladwood made a worm like this. I took a big piece of paper and I made some squiggly lines and I worked on my cutting skills and I took my scissors. And remember, when you're cutting on the line, what do? I'm taking my time and I'm cutting on the line. I'm taking my time and I'm cutting on the line, and I cut out my big worm body. You could make your worm body look however you want. Then I added details. I painted it all different kinds of brownish, orangish colors. I made the segments. I made the clitellum, that big brown patch on it. Can I make eyes on my worm?
No.
No.
Because it doesn't have eyes.
Can I make a nose on my worm?
Nope, because it doesn't have a nose.
Can I make ears on my worm?
Nope, because it doesn't have ears.
Can I make a mouth?
Yeah.
I could.
It has a mouth.
I could add a mouth to it because it sure does have a mouth.
Yep.
So maybe this is gonna be the head, and maybe I'm gonna make a mouth so that my worm can eat all of that dirt and make those worm tunnels. So I can definitely make a mouth. What else does my worm have? What else could I add for details? Do you remember something about that worm yesterday that it had a lot of?
Hearts.
I could make some hearts. So what you could do is you could take a piece of paper and you could work on making some hearts. So I made one heart here.
So now you just got to do 4 more.
Yep, so I would have to do 1. This is how I make a heart, but another easy way to make a heart, if you guys want to make a heart, is you could make kind of an M shape, like that, kind of an M, and then you could make the bottom. That could be a heart too. So I'm going to do that one again because that one's kind of fun. Just make an M shape.
And it's easy.
Kind of like for Maya or May, and then just add the bottom to it. Kind of like a half of a circle for the bottom. I'll do it one more time because it's so fun. An M shape, and then half of a circle for the bottom. And then I have my scissors here, and I could cut out my hearts. If it's too hard to kind of stay on that line because they're kind of small,
you don't really have to stay on the line. You could just cut around it.
You could cut around it. That's called thinking outside the box and being really smart. So, and I could even color in my heart if I want to do that and really take my time with this project. And then I could tape or glue 5 hearts all over my worm because I know that worms have 5 hearts. So you could try to make your own worm. I also made like a smaller kind of a worm. I cut it out. I made the segments. I colored it in with some crayons, different colors. I didn't add the 5 hearts yet, but I could do that. I could add a mouth. You could do whatever you want. You could make your worm however you want. Maybe you want to take a toilet paper roll and see if you could make a worm out of that.
Yeah.
Make a recycled worm out of recycling materials. You could do whatever you want. Sky's the limit. Use your thinker. Use your imagination. Get creative. And if you come up with something amazing, snap a picture and send it to Geveret, Fladwood, and Paige. We'd love to see your work.
Yep.
And don't forget to tune in tomorrow because tomorrow we'll uncover our experiment and see if we can figure out what the worms were doing. All right. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Bye.